Pontificators live. We got the crew here. We got the crew, and we are going to entertain you for the next couple hours. We're going to pontificate the hell and scratch our heads at this whole Marvel 116 documentary debacle, is all I can call it. And I'm thinking, personally, that Disney hates Marvel Comics. I just think they hate them, because I don't know why you would do this documentary. And we have something here that I got to show you. So, hey, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Show off your sportswear.
Yeah, that's pretty dope.
It is pretty dope.
I love it. I love it. That's awesome, man. And if you guys don't know, this is the level of dedication Joe brings to this show. He shaved a freaking pea into the top of his head. This man is committed, or should be.
Joe's the man, or should be committed. Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, once I'd done a few shows, and we all agreed that I could stick around for the long term.
There was a vote.
I took the clippers to the head and right up here.
Yeah,
he initiated himself.
I consider doing it to my pubes, but I could do it.
I could do it to my pubes live if you'd like. I got scissors nearby.
Would you?
I was just
I would, dude.
Yeah, Jason got off easy with the pontificator thing, but if he's going to shave his pubes live, or was that you?
Oh, but we'll do it together. It'll be a brother thing.
Oh, okay, buddy. Nice.
If this was 20 years ago, I'd go, Chester, that's the gayest thing I've ever heard.
Yeah, nice. Thank you.
You can still say that, Art.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's the only time I could probably call Chester Graybush.
Hey, sir, I only have 3 gray hairs, and they're on the bottom of my balls. So.
Oh my gosh, we're starting off. Usually it takes the first hour to get to this point of the show, but we're starting off strong. You guys, this is how we entertain on a Wednesday evening. So yeah, the ball jokes, the gray ball jokes.
Nice.
Starting early.
Yeah, I was on Cecil's show, and for some reason it came up that what was it? That he had some kind of cure for cancer, or that we were talking about. He had some kind of something, and then my gray pubes mixed were the cure to cancer. And so good. You know how Comicsgate goes, it just runs amok. And I think a couple of the Comicsgate creators actually put a jar of like cure for cancer on a shelf, and it said Art's pubes and something or other.
Right on.
Like
that's amazing.
Oh, I remember what it was. Okay, it was it was my ashes. It was somebody's ashes.
Wow.
I don't know why. Yeah,
men in their comedy.
Oh. Yeah.
And Eric's just sending lies out again. I learned something the other day from Eric Boyd though. He taught me what a merkin was. I didn't know what that was. I learned something new.
A chest
pube
wig,
toupee.
Right?
It's a pube toupee
for your chest, right?
What?
I think it's women wear it.
What?
I don't know. Maybe I'm confused. I know it had something to do with pubes, though.
Isn't a merkin a pube toupee?
I think it's your chest. It might be chest and genital region.
I didn't know the chest part.
Google that.
Somebody needs.
Why would you? If I naturally didn't grow pubes, I'd be so happy.
And
what?
You know what, guys? Like, the only reason I know what a merkin is was because of Kevin Smith. Like. In one of his last movies, literally one of the characters' names is Merkin, and of course Jay Muse says it's a pube toupee. So I must assume that it's something along those lines.
Wow,
your balls are in your chin, Chester.
Yes, I know. Thank you.
And yes, this is foul. Yeah, we started off with a bang here. We're competing with the Jack Show.
Are we?
I don't know, man. If people are digging this, we can go dark.
Yeah.
We can go bad.
We can go ritual sacrifice, man.
We could do that.
I
we
mean,
would have to sacrifice the young one, which is the cherry head tonight.
Oh, dang it.
oh, sorry, buddy.
Sorry, buddy.
It was nice knowing you, Zach.
Yeah, I had a good run. I know.
He was a good guy.
But I'm not dying a virgin at least, so this is good.
Oh,
my
positives.
God.
Just as an actual public correction, because I can't let it go by. Merkin actually comes from the word malkin, and it's basically the wigs that people used to wear in England and Dutch because they had so much lice they had to shave off their actual hair, and they would pay to have these. And sometimes what this actually the merkin actually came out of was that sometimes they would go to prostitutes and pay them very small amounts of money to get their hair, not their pubic hair, just their hair. But the problem is often you'd buy your wig, a cheap wig, and it would have lice in it, which defeats the purpose.
Right.
But that's where this comes from, actually.
It's a Les Mis moment. That's what you're saying.
Well,
Chester is a sober Cecil. All right. I'm cool with that.
I'm glad it's not a pube toupee. That's awesome.
There you go.
Yeah, because I was like, why?
Me too. Like,
why?
like for movies?
They wear the chest hair toupees, though. I guess they want to feel more manly.
Yeah, have the little hair sticking out like up here.
Yeah. And people are saying Happy Thanksgiving. Is it Thanksgiving time already? Damn.
Tomorrow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, happy Black Friday.
Yeah.
Right.
We can get thanks right now.
I really hope that everybody just doesn't listen to any of the stuff that's going on and just goes and does Black Friday. This is the one time I wish people would go out and do Black Friday. You know, just masses, just
that's fair.
Tear the place up. Just do it.
Well, did you hear what the governor of California, he set a curfew for tomorrow. Yeah. So if you're out after 6 or 7 or something like that, then the cops are authorized to, I don't know what, bring you in. Like, I don't know what the hell they're going to do.
But there's a bunch of sheriffs in California that have already said that they're like, we're not going to
enforce it.
Yeah, we're not going to enforce it. So don't call us with anything that's not like an emergency.
They've closed down parts of LA, but I pick up my niece from work. She's younger, and I drive her to my mom's house. And it's usually at like 2 a.m. I've never seen a cop. No cops give me a hard time. They usually do too. They see me as like a tattooed thug, and they usually stop my ass. But
you're white. You have privilege.
I do. It's actually kind of funny because I used to live in Moreno Valley, and it was very different there than it is here. And the police used to treat me very differently than other people. And
poorly, probably.
And I noticed it. Not as poorly as you think. Like, you know, it was kind of funny because I had never not been treated like a tattooed thug. So it was kind of funny.
Well, they just flew you over to say hi and give you like flowers.
Hello, fellow white man.
No. So what I would notice, and this is my experience, unfortunately, I can't speak for anybody else, but No. I would have to go pick up my son or daughter from school, and my son at the time was in not a wheelchair, but a stroller. So I'd go pick up his sister, and as I'd come back, like the police would usually be like driving the neighborhood or stuff or whatever, and they'd stop and they'd give out little like "you support the police" type of stuff. And I noticed as I'm going down my street, which is like 50% white and 50% black and Hispanic, and I noticed they're stopping and giving it to all the white people, but they're not giving it to anybody else. And that was kind of weird to me. And then one day I was walking down the street, and these 2 little black kids were walking behind me, or in front of me, sorry. And they were afraid to go past the police car that was parked up about 100 yards in front of them. And they turned around and started like coming back towards me. And I was like, what the hell's going on? And they were like, we don't want to go past that cop because we know he's going to give us a hard time. And I was like, really?
Maybe
and I go,
they had an 8-ball in their pocket.
And maybe they were children. So I don't believe they did so. And I was like, just walk with me. And they never give me a problem. And I go, either you're holding me hostage or I've, of course, stolen you from somebody.
This man has clearly never been to Mogadishu, man.
Clearly. No.
Or Jason, you enslaved them.
So, So I had a really weird experience with that stuff. And I see that now that, they're when my sleeves are down and my tattoos aren't showing, it's a different story. I get lots of yes sirs and stuff like that. But the second the sleeves come up and they see that I'm a tattooed heathen, it's a little different.
Yeah, it's really strange because I used to live in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and even the cops were all tattooed up. Everybody was tattooed up. So it was like no one cared. And you just go like, hey, what's up, my homie? And it was really, really strange. Or not strange, but it was just normal. So when you guys say things like that, I'm like, this is such a strange idea. Because I came from a place that was literally a melting pot.
Oh, do you mean that actual things and people's opinions matters on where they might live and be? Oh, God,
things are obviously different regionally depending on where you are and stuff.
Very.
Like that.
Well, no, here in Asia, I am the Great White Father.
Yeah, well.
Yes, you are.
Chester, you're very tall and a big guy, so.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure they treat you with a lot of
you.
I get anything I want. The funny thing is that the Japanese I do have all the rights. The Japanese do treat me like that. But the funniest thing about it is when I run into like Nepalese or Bangladeshis or Indians or Indonesians and stuff like that, dude, I'm like a god walking. And I shit you not.
Hey,
seriously, they bend over. I get special treatment. I get put in front of the line.
They bend over in front.
Wow. If I required it, sir.
Wow.
It is shocking, and of course that's coming from the imperialism, the British imperialism. So it's just a leftover from it.
Right.
But I do benefit, and I ain't complaining shit, dude. I like it.
So Chester, you know what it's like to be a hot chick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I do know what it feels like to be a hot chick. I do. Thank you, Art. I didn't even. Now I understand the world.
That's right.
Well, you are a descendant, or Jennifer Connelly is a descendant of your family.
Oh, that's the dirty Irish side of my family.
The dirty Irish side. That's the side that you should emulate right now and pop open a beer and start drinking.
That's fair. Yeah. I usually tend to lean on my dad's side because the nobility and all. But that's all right. I'll go with the dirty Irish. They're good. They party well.
They do.
Oh, party, yeah, and they're bare-fisted fighters, aren't they? Are they bear fighters too? Are they like the ones that will actually like fight bears?
You never wrestle a bear? I wrestle a bear.
All the time, I bet.
Yourself doesn't count. Yourself doesn't count.
No, all joking aside, I actually went to one of those pop-up circus fair things. You know what I mean? When I was younger, and they had a bear in the ring, like a four-posted ring, and anyone if you could stay in the ring for 2 minutes or something like that, you win like $100 or something. And of course I tried it. That bear's strong, man.
Oh,
it was a baby. It was a cub.
It was as tall as I was at that age. I was about 14, I guess. But it was just good old American fun, man.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
They're strong even after you drug them and put them in there too.
Exactly. Yeah. But no, of course I had a muzzle on and it had little gloves on it. It wasn't going to hurt you.
So
it was
good.
just
gloves on.
It ain't going to hurt you.
They can knock your head off even with padded paws.
So funny.
Knock your head
funny.
Dude,
I remember
I'm half Irish. We do not think of danger. We charge into it laughing.
That's right. So curious to a fault.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, like cats. That's it. The Irish are like cats.
Well,
I remember.
I'm sorry. Go ahead, and then I'm gonna put a spotlight on some individual creators and their books. But go ahead, Jason.
I was gonna stay in the vein of playing with animals and stuff like that, but it's kind of silly. So let's just go ahead and move forward.
Yeah, we're warmed up now. We're good to go.
Yeah, we're
the
good.
Chat's hating me enough. It's perfect. It's good.
Yeah.
It's good, Joe.
So Jason was going to say that he too wrestled the bear.
No, I didn't wrestle a bear. I got to ride on an elephant when I was a kid, and I
smell bad.
I had ridden horses and stuff when I was younger, which was never a big deal. But getting on an elephant was like, you're not supposed to be there. It was really weird. And it wasn't that it's just so big and it's so just lumbering and large and giant. And if he didn't want you there, he could pull you off and just stomp on you. And in the wild, they've been known to do that. If you F with a giant elephant in the African wild, they've been known to come to villages, knock on doors, and reach inside and pull people out.
Find you.
They will. They will. They're sentient.
They have
creatures.
the whole entire lion thing going on, or tiger thing, where it's like if you hunt a tiger, they'll actually hunt you back and they'll figure out where you live and they'll stalk you.
Yeah.
Shere
Khan.
Yeah. But did the elephant? This sounded like it was going to a dark place. Like
no,
it did something. Did the elephant do something to you?
No,
okay?
No. The elephant didn't touch me.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, that's good.
In my special place or anything. But
Merkin?
it very much implanted in my head that I knew I was never supposed to be on something like this, that they shouldn't be in like zoos, that they shouldn't be held in captivity. Like it very much solidified it in me, and I was probably 10 or 11 years old.
Were you bareback on the elephant, or did it have one of those little wicker baskets that you get in? Like
no wicker basket. So it was on the back of an elephant.
Oh wow!
So
I did it at the.
Yeah.
I rode an elephant at the Springfield Fair. Wish Todd was in here. It's right near. He lives near there. But they had like you said, like a basket type of thing. Thing I thought was interesting about the elephant was just petting its head. Right, their hair is they're like spikes, dude.
Yeah, bristles. Yeah,
they're bristles. Yeah, and they smell very badly.
They can. Yeah, they can. Okay. So, but they're incredibly affectionate and super smart and it's just, for some reason, I have some weird thing about it now. Like that and like primates and stuff like that. They all are so freaking smart, man. I've always had these weird interactions with creatures like that. And they're they're so, and I don't want to sound like a hippie because like I'm the kind of guy that literally would go out and like shoot his own food and eat it or fish for it or whatever, but there's certain obvious exceptions to the rules.
When I was a kid at the San Diego Zoo, we could ride an elephant or we could ride a camel.
Yeah.
That just made me want to own elephants and camels.
I don't know.
If I ever came to any kind of story like this, it was like a nativity scene at one of the churches around here, and they do this whole thing where they have like these booths and they have like livestock and everything. It's very, very elaborate. And you go there and you get basically, the baby Jesus story and everything. And so there's a camel and those things spit and it's like, boom. Pass me into the lady's hair right next to me.
Sweet.
So good.
Sweet. She deserved it.
So
she deserved it.
I like animals that are that big. Yeah,
there. Of course, the problem with that is that we're getting to the point with elephants that we better keep some in captivity.
Right.
Yeah, just
I know.
Art, if you can go up in the chat, there's a certain person. I think his name is Albino Thunder Buns. Yeah,
who is that guy?
Pretty interesting comment. If you could go up, it's out of view right now.
San Francisco thing or what is the albino comment?
Oh, there we go. He talked about bear wrestling in San Francisco. Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting comment from Mr. Thunder Buns. Yeah,
Is this the one that you know?
Yes, it's that one.
That's so good.
That's a different kind of bear.
Yeah,
It
I
is
visited
true.
Frisco a couple times, but did
Story time.
did not stay for the wrestling matches.
That's good.
It sounds fun though,
Yeah.
doesn't it?
My San Diego story. Okay, so we're there, a family trip. I'm probably about 12 years old, and we're sitting on like Fisherman's Wharf or something. I got my hands on this rail, and I'm looking out at the ocean. This guy comes, this adult comes up, stands really, really close to me, and puts his hand next to mine. And he started talking in a way that made me very uncomfortable. And then I was like, thanks, but no thanks. And then right when I did that, I turned and I saw my dad, and my dad was watching the whole time, and he had the biggest freaking grin on my face. But the thing is, he was amused by it, but I think he was very proud too, because like I handled myself.
So good.
Yeah, but
So
in a way,
good.
isn't it also kind of flattering, though? I mean, some
Right.
other human found you attractive, right?
I
mean,
agree.
in a way, right?
I was 12.
Oh, all right. Well, look. All right.
You
well,
were 12?
That's criminal.
No,
That's criminal.
that's bad. That's bad.
Only Joe would approve of such things.
Yeah, pay attention to the story.
Joe Biden, you mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
There you go.
Yeah.
There you go.
That was nice handoff, baby.
Boom. Yeah. Hey, we got Shane Davis in the house, and brilliant comic book artist, creator. He's got Starlight Cats, and I think he is counting down. So you guys go check out his Indiegogo. It looks brilliant. He and his wife are working their asses off on this thing. It looks like an all ages book. So pick up a couple for your kids. Thank you so much for hanging out in the chat, Shane. Awesome to see you here. So we'll use that as a segue, and we'll go right into Jason's Kill Journal. So I'm going to give you the spotlight, my friend. I'm going to share the site with everybody. So go for it.
Great, please do. So, as you all know, I'm the creator of Hammer, and after creating Hammer and having a successful Indiegogo campaign, I was asked to come on board with Failed Superhero Club, which is ran by a gentleman named Adam Lawson. He's a actor who was actually in one of my favorite movies from like 15 years ago. And his part stood out to me so much from the movie. I didn't realize it was him till I met him. And he told me he was in the movie. And it's like come full circle 15 years later. So he asked me to come work on the Kill Journal with him. Their artist who was originally doing it had some health issues, I guess. And he needed somebody who was a veteran in the industry to come in and kind of give him a gritty, dark mood to this whole thing. So we did a couple tests, and he liked my stuff so much, he put me under contract, and I am delivering 88 pages of the Kill Journal to all of you. It's a horror comic that essentially takes all the cliches of horror movies, like all the bad guys and stuff like Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Mike Myers, stuff like that, kind of puts our twist on it, and then we tell it from the view of the survivors. All the survivors have, from all these, we call them revenants, have essentially formed a group under a main head by the name of St. George. And St. George is a priest who lost his child to a revenant. And each one of these people that are part of this group has lost someone or something to a revenant. So this is this group getting together to hunt revenants. And I'm drawing it and I'm enjoying it. It's a great book. It's a great property. I'm looking forward to what they do with television shows, movies, eventually with the property when we're done. And some of the stuff you're looking at right here is the concept art for it. I didn't do the concept art. It was brought to me after the fact. So I'm trying to stick with all that stuff and just make it a thrill ride. And so far, the first issue is in the can, and we have it being colored. It's going to come out digitally and as a leather-bound, embossed book. And
yeah, I saw that. That looks pretty impressive. Let me find that. So this is what the book will look like, the leather-bound book.
That's correct. It's a faux leather that's been embossed and has gold foil on it. It's this tier is $40, and it essentially mimics the kill journal that St. George carries around, that he writes in to essentially hold all the secrets of the revenants, right? So you can't just go kill a revenant. If you try, they'll heal and get back up and come after you. It doesn't matter what you do to them. You can't destroy them unless you find the key to them, like almost like all the great Freddy Krueger stuff where they had to go find his bones and go bury it in a sacred place and do all that weird stuff. I love that idea about it. And of course, all these characters are traumatized. So from all their experiences, so they all bring that to the table too. Like Marty, one of our characters, her father was killed by a demon that came out of a mirror. So she has an aversion to mirrors. Another character by the name of Finch, he was kept as a dog by his father and used to fight pit bulls on the Mexican border, like that movie Danny the Dog or Unbreakable. And his father was killed by a revenant. So now he fears that someday he might become a revenant. And he's hunting Mr. Crispy, the revenant who killed his father, trying to, essentially gain some type of retribution for what's gone on.
Yeah, this looks great, you guys. So there's 10 days left. It's they're at 18,893, 302 backers. That's great stuff. So go check this out. Jason's the artist. Who's the writer again?
Adam Lawson. So Adam Lawson is a producer, director, actor. He did Escape the Night on YouTube. He writes for Netflix. He writes for HBO and Showtime also. He did some stuff for like Snakes on a Plane. He was in SLC Punk. If any of you have seen SLC Punk, he's one of the actors from SLC Punk that makes me so happy. What was that?
My daughter loves that. Yeah.
Nice. Tell her during the scene of there's a mod trying to get acid from some other character, and one of the guys comes up, his name's Russ the Mod, and he says, "Sean, why are you a fucking punk?" And he goes, "Because mods are fucking pussies." And he goes, "Fuck you, true, I'm going to kick your fucking ass." And that's my buddy Adam Lawson pulling that off.
What's the character's name? Ross or Russ?
Russ the Mod. So,
yeah, my daughter tried to get me to watch that show. I'm telling you, man, it's harder to watch than Clerks.
I loved it. For some reason, back when I saw that movie.
It's one of those things that it either speaks to you or it doesn't. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I think she was at the right age, and that movie has enough angst. Were there two of them? There's like two, aren't there?
Well, yeah, there's two of them. That is correct. So the second one came out like 2 or 3 years ago.
He's older or something, right? And it's like a continuation.
It's a continuation. Ross, which is the son of Heroin Bob, who died in the first one, it's his continuation. He's a straight edge, and his girlfriend is caught cheating on him, which he finds out. And then he goes on a huge bender and starts drinking and doing drugs. And Trish, who's his mom, which was Heroin Bob's girlfriend at the time when he passed away, owns like this little weird store that does all these little hippie things and has like crystals and all that stuff. And she's freaking out because Heroin Bob died of a Percocet overdose. Yes, silent Heroin Bob. That's funny.
I'm getting it. It means more if you watch it through the end, Art. I did watch it to the end.
It was so good, man. I mean, and it is. It's true. Art.
Both of them. Like my daughter made me watch both of them. It looks nothing against your friend, but it looks like somebody just made this with a Super 8 camera.
They did. It was very much shot on the fly. And it was probably the director's point of view and him growing up in Salt Lake City. And I have a lot of friends who grew up in Salt Lake City, so I get it. And that whole punk scene that happened at the time, I get that too. So it kind of meant something to me in that way. Plus I had gotten like sober at the time when I had seen it. So it was very poignant because one of the main characters fucking dies of a overdose. And the worst thing he'd ever done was drink beer. Right. And he had a headache. Somebody gave him some Percodan or Percocet and he thought it was aspirin and it killed him. And that whole thing like spurred this whole thing in my head, like, oh, I don't want to be like Heroin Bob. And then I got like all super sober. So this
movie saved you.
Not as much as the rehab that I was in before that, but yes, it had a pertinent moment. And during that same time, I talked to Danny Bonaducci and stuff like that. So and he was going through a bunch of stuff. So it literally solidified itself in my head at that time, more so than it had in the past 20 years. Don't listen to him at Blues.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nice.
Art was pointing down with his special finger.
One right here. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Thanks, man. So, friends like you, Joe.
So Adam was in that movie that I loved so much, and I actually consider it a great like serendipitous like thing in my life to go from that and then 15 years later working with somebody who was part of that.
Jason, trust me, when I tell my daughter this, she's gonna flip her lid because she loves that movie. Her and her boyfriend.
Nice.
They love that. Yeah. So I don't know. Like I said, it either speaks to you or it doesn't. Right. So yeah, it definitely hit a nerve with them. So
nice.
I couldn't really get into it. But.
It's okay. Anyways, Adam actually is a very good writer. It's what he primarily does with his life, and people come to him that are usually studio people asking him for rewrites and stuff like that. And he is so quick at turning stuff over and kind of making people happy and keeping things moving on production that he's found his niche. And this is what he does. So on top of writing comics that he loves so much, he does board games, which Ascender, if you've never heard of that, it's right now funding on Kickstarter, and I think the first day they made like $45,000, and he's really, really into this, and he created The Eighth. If you've ever heard of the book called The Eighth, which funded very well also, and I'm actually super happy to be part of this group of people, and he's very open to my ideas. And at some point when we get this all out, there will be a second Kill Journal, and I'll be writing and doing the art for my end of the story. I'm going to take the Kill Journal back 100 years and kind of give you a real origin story and see what you guys think of it.
Yeah, everybody check out Kill Journal. I think you're 10 days out, so back it today. And there's another Indiegogo Comicsgate book that I wanted to shed some light on, and she's a near and dear friend of mine. And I'm going to what am I doing? I'm not doing the right thing. Screen share. Boom. Boom. Click. Share. There it is. Okay. So it is Charlie's London, and she has a book right now, and it is cleaning up. It's 35. It's at 35K, 35,829,439 backers. Only 20 days left. This is a killer kind of documentary type story that Charlie's London has put together. She absolutely loves Charlie Chaplin, and art. And everything looks great. It's a 64-page graphic novel, all kinds of varied covers. Look at this artwork, you guys.
It is
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, it's
That's
amazing.
nice.
It's
That's his communist uniform.
He looks a little like you, Chester. Nah,
Really?
I'm just kidding. But yeah, the artwork looks really, really good. It's very photo refed, and it's very of the time. It looks like I can't really, I wasn't around, even though you guys probably think I was around at this time. But it looks very period accurate, and it looks good. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, there's going to be some colors over this gray wash.
That is some really good art. Who did the art?
Let's find out. Let's go back.
I mean, it's solid art, dude.
Yeah. Well, Art's looking for that. Chester, I don't know if you're familiar with the project Mary Boys, the creator Carl Stefan. He goes by Chubb. He's a Brit. It's one of the best, most entertaining comics I've ever read in my life. Mm-hmm. And so a good friend of his is the artist for this book. Charlie's had originally asked Carl if he would illustrate it, but he was booked up, so he referred her over to a friend of his, and he's the one who's doing the art. And I agree. I think it looks phenomenal. I backed at a high tier. I'm a lifelong Chaplin fan, but even if I wasn't, the art alone would have sold me on this project. And
yeah, so it's the artist's name. It says International Art by Nikki and colors by Ink Spots. So I guess the artist is Mickey with a Vinnie Tartamella cover, a Donald DeLay cover, and like you said, Joe, is it Carl Stefan?
Yeah, Carl Stefan. So Vinny did the cover that you're looking at there. That's the one that's going to be on the copy that's sold at the Chaplin Museum. Charlie's has a very strong working relationship with the Chaplin estate, and they've officially licensed this project to her. And so they'll be selling the copy with Vinny's cover. And then the one with Chaplin sitting on the marquee of the theater, that was done by Carl Stefan. And then the cover with Chaplin as a kid, and then the reflection, that was by Donald DeLay.
Yeah. Oh, here's the cover. So this is Carl's. And let's see if I can find the Donald. Oh yeah, so there's what it looked like with some of the color over the wash.
Yeah, that's with Ink Spots color.
Yeah, it's pretty cool looking. Oh, there isn't the Donald DeLay, but that one's pretty cool. Yeah, it's like it's a kid walking, down a kind of wet street, and the reflection is an adult Charlie Chaplin. I guess the little tramp character.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's reflected in the water there. It's very, very cool. She's a sweetheart, man. I love talking to her. I've gone on her show a couple times. I should try to get her on this show. But she's a joy to talk to, and this artwork looks great. It's like the perfect artwork for this project. Like sometimes, like lightning just strikes, and just everything lines up. And I think with her writing, her sensibilities, her love for the actor and his life, and then the artist that she got on the project, it's like just the perfect combination of everything. Yeah.
Just be careful you bring her over here. Zach gets a little handsy.
What? I've got a wife. We've seen her. She's real.
She's real, man.
People still don't understand why she picked me, but you know what? I'm not complaining.
That's fair.
She's not like that imaginary girlfriend that lives in Niagara Falls.
No, not at all. Not at all.
You know, one thing I find interesting about Charlie Chaplin and all the success he has, he also wrote a song that is eternal and lasts forever.
It's called Happy Birthday, and he still gets
it's smile though your heart is aching, smile even though it's breaking. When there are clouds in the sky, you'll get by. It's a great song, man.
I didn't know that. That's a great.
And I didn't know about your lovely singing voice.
Oh, well, I do sing in a blues band, dude. I have a... Yeah.
Jason, don't encourage.
I didn't know that.
Don't encourage him.
Speaking of lovely people, where's Mr. Mulvaney?
Well, let me get out of here. Okay, so you guys, please go check out Charlie's London's new book. She's 20 days out, and this thing looks really, really good, and it's definitely a passion of hers. And like Joe said, this is sanctioned, and this is an official license of the Chaplin estate. So she's got their blessing on it. And I think there's a museum in London. I'm not sure where it's at, but this book will be sold in that gift shop as well. So
Nice.
it's killer. Yeah, it's not. This is official biography stuff, you know. So this isn't messing around. So go check that out. And have you guys changing gears a little bit? And by the way, Jason, that mood lighting's working, man. That blue and then the green.
Yeah.
What happens? What
really
do I do?
complements the gray in your beard.
Yeah.
Yes.
The merkin on your face.
The merkin on my face. That's right.
That's the name of a punk band right there. The merkin on my face.
Nice. Merkin Jesus.
Yeah, Merkin Jesus. I love this name in here. Pedro Ang. Hispanic Southeast Asian. That is awesome, dude.
And baby, it's cold outside. You can't sing that song anymore because it's stalker-esque and it's not good. Yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I mean, they're flirting with each other. I don't know what the problem is, but
yeah, but apparently modern day feminists have a problem with it because it sounds very rapey.
No.
Men and women aren't allowed to flirt with each other and then afterward have sex. Write that down, Joe.
Right.
Yeah, but they're fine with Pina Colada song. And that's about people trying to cheat on each other purposefully. You know,
but it all comes around and gets all in a nice little bow right at the end.
Yeah, it's like, oh, by the way, I was going to cheat on you with you. Busted.
They can hardly point the finger, and if they do,
it's like, well, do you want to just go make this happen? Okay.
You know, I do think there is something that's been lost in the dating world there, Art, and I think what it is the whole idea of.
What are you talking about?
Well, you know, the hard to get. You know, women used to have this tool in their pocketbook, and not anymore. They just sleep with anyone, anytime. Then they complain about it after.
Well, the reason they used to, I'm convinced, is because of the birth control thing. So at one point, a woman had to make sure they wanted to sleep with you.
Yeah.
Because they could be left with a little present. Modern,
now they just have Grindr.
They don't. Yeah. It doesn't matter.
Isn't that a gay thing? Isn't Grindr? Oh, sorry.
Just let him fantasize.
Yeah. Chester knows all about the gay.
I did. Booster taught me.
Oh gosh.
Booster. Oh well, speaking of Todd Mulrooney, like you were saying, Jason, where is Todd Mulrooney?
Is it Mulrooney? I thought it was Mulvaney.
No, it's Mulrooney for sure. He wouldn't dare be associated with one of those Mulvaneys. Jesus.
Sorry. Fuck, man.
From that vein of the Mulvanes. But yeah. Let's shift over to the topic at hand, shall we?
Yeah.
I believe that Disney hates Marvel. If anybody has not been paying attention for the last couple days, I think what is it? Oh my gosh, I'm blanking right now. Found in Comics, a couple other news sites have picked up on it. I think EBS has mentioned it. I mentioned it the other day on my live stream that Disney Plus has these short documentaries, and they call them 616, Marvel 616. And so what they did is they did a little like slice of life or a day in the life of like a writer, editor, and how they kind of relate. And so on paper, just saying it sounds fine, right? It sounds like, oh, this would be fun. See some behind the scenes stuff, see how, the sausage is packed, as they say. See how comic books put together. See what a writer, editor's relationship's like. And so as you watch this thing, you realize that they're just like Tom Brevoort. It's Tom Brevoort is the editor, and Dan Slott is the writer. And they're talking about a new Iron Man series that Dan Slott is writing. So apparently the backstory is Dan Slott is incredibly late on the project. So he's being berated by his dad at the dinner table. So Dan Slott is the little child, and he's getting put in his place by his father, which is Tom Brevoort. And it's weird to watch, but for me, being a creative person and trying to like put everything I do and this industry in the best light possible, I couldn't believe that Disney, who owns Marvel Comics, would actually put money, set it aside, actually have a film crew go to Marvel Comics and film and put money into this thing, hours of editing to put together basically a hit piece on not only Dan Slott, but on Marvel Comics and Tom Brevoort. Everybody looks completely incompetent in this short documentary. And so the ripple effects have been the industry basically asking the same question, like the comics industry saying, why the hell would Disney do this to Marvel Comics? So why does Disney hate Marvel Comics? So I think that's kind of all you need to know. I mean, we could go to the articles and we could go into the minutia of it, but I don't think that's as much fun as just kind of speculating. Why the hell would a parent company do this? So that's basically the pontificator question that I want to throw out to you guys. Like, why the hell would anybody do this? So I'm just throwing this up. Anybody who wants to comment, feel free.
I mean, is it to show that there are normal functioning moving parts to everything, and that, comics aren't a exact science? Like, maybe it's just that seems stupid too. Like, why show your shortcomings on a live or on anything?
Well, let me back up, because when we were talking off air, Jason hadn't seen it, so he doesn't really know. Right. But let me kind of fill you and Jason and anybody else who doesn't know. Where this whole thing goes, like beginning, middle, and end of the doc, is that Dan Slott screws up so badly, they move it into the future, and so then they have to hire another writer to finish the story. Keep in mind, this is issue 1. So anybody who's done monthly comics knows, if the shit's hitting the fan this early on, this entire series is doomed. There's no way they're going to get anything done, because it's just trickle-down domino effect that there's going to be less time every issue going down the line. So when you think about it that way, I forget the writer's name that they brought in. He finished the series, and then there's even they interview the letterer, and he talks about how he had to pull an all-nighter to finish the book. So if this was just kind of like you said, Jason, like just a day in the life, right? This is just like we're going to also show like how hard it is, or the struggles, or like it's not all pretty or whatever. That's fine, but they actually show what Dan Slott, the ramifications of Dan Slott being so cavalier about making his deadlines, not making his deadlines, and then just shoving it off on somebody else. And also, like, if it was anybody else, if this was me, you, Jason, or Joe, if you were writing or Zach was drawing it, we would have all been fired. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I've been in those situations. You don't fuck up. You don't not miss your deadlines. You won't work the next month and you'll get fired. But Dan Slott somehow, after this, kept his job. So I just want to give you a little bit more detail and let you guys take it.
Yeah. Can I add one thing real quick before we get into that? A little bit more primer to what he said. Could you share my screen real quick, Art, please?
Sure.
Now, I think it might be interesting to take a look at this series that they're doing. There's 8 of them when the next one isn't out yet. The last one isn't out yet. And try to get an understanding of the tone of what they've been doing. Because in this Dan Slott interview, they trashed him. They did. And I don't want to hear any jokes about that he's only 4'2". It's okay.
Hey.
All right.
Really?
He's very small. He's very so Breeveport is teeny. And it looks really small next to him. I think he has dwarfism. I don't know. Anyway, he'd make a good dwarf in a movie. But beyond
if he's 4'2", then yes, he is.
Yeah, so, he is. Yeah, but
he is if you're 4'2".
Yeah, unfortunately. But I thought it would be interesting to look because maybe if that's what they're doing, if the whole series is about looking at problems or how we can fix things or this kind of thinking. Maybe it makes sense, but I don't think that's what we find. If we look over here, what we see is the first one is about the Japanese Spider-Man, which is a frigging abomination. Mm-hmm.
By the way, I tried to watch that thing. I found it very, very interesting.
It's an abomination without question. But that's their first episode. Okay, so that's just looking at some deal that Marvel made with Toei. Then we have Higher, Further, Faster. Higher, Further, Faster recognizes the trailblazing women to have helped build the Marvel Universe. Well, that's nice. Amazing artisans, and love Marvel characters and see how they are brought to life with talents and tablets. Visual storytellers draw inspiration from their environments, and a few fans realize how many Marvel artists live and work around the world, yada, yada, yada. They're talking to a few people over here, and I remember in that particular episode, they had a man who was tracing live. That's nice. Lost and Found. Actor and comedian Pauly Shear is on the hunt to discover the forgotten characters of Marvel. With everyone from writing legends to designers chiming in. Lost and Found is hilarious. And of course, if you look at what they look at, of course, it's a very female-centric thing. That's all right. Suit Up, cosplayers. Nice.
What?
I'm sure they're well-clothed ones. Unbox action figures. All right, looking at toys. All right. The Marvel Method, trashing on Dan Slott. And the last one is Marvel Spotlight, which they're going to be looking at particularly Miss Marvel and Squirrel Girl because they're the future. So this is your series, 616. And as you can see, they only trashed a single person here. And it's Dan Slott. And it was planned, scheduled, shot, and delivered.
Scripted probably as well. Like on some level, they probably had a shooting script. So it is absolutely mind-boggling what they did here, and I don't understand to what end. Like,
was it to put Dan back in his place? Like,
but why would you do a whole documentary? Like, give it this much time? Wouldn't you just fire him or give him like some kind of like, you did bad there, Dan. You do that again, we're gonna fire you, kind of thing. You don't make a documentary about it.
That's reasonable. Yes, I agree. Absolutely.
I have a theory about that based on my experience in corporate business. And typically, when I would see this sort of stuff go on, it would be because the subject, in this case, Mr. Slott, self-described Slotto Bloctavius. That's how he describes himself on Twitter.
Slotto Bloctavius.
Yeah. So when I would see this in corporate business, usually it was because the subject, in this case, Mr. Slott, has some dirt on people in power. And if they fire him, then he threatens to, expose the dirt. And so when I would see this, in the corporate world, basically they would do an end run around the person they wanted to get rid of. And rather than fire them directly, they would arrange to have some compromising information come to light. And then HR would take care of the firing.
Right. Well, that could happen.
Well, it still makes Breeveport look bad.
Yeah.
And it makes Marvel look bad. That's the thing. That it doesn't just make Dan Slott look incompetent because Breeveport hired him, and it still standing by him.
Yep.
So he's doubling down on the decision, and then it shows the ramifications of what Dan Slott's selfishness did. It gave another writer an opportunity to write, which he probably loved, getting that chance to do it, but he's still doing it under the gun. And then they show the letterer who had to pull an all-nighter to, make the deadline, to make up for the time. And then, trust me, that's just the beginning. Next month is not going to be any different. The following month is probably going to be worse. And by issue 4, if they're able to keep any semblance of this unit together, by issue 4, they're still going to have to break up their team. They're going to have to bring new people in, because there's no way they're going to be able to keep that book going if it's a monthly. Right. It's going to be a clusterfuck. And who's going to have to pay for it once again? Oh, I don't know. Anybody who loves Iron Man, anybody who loves, Marvel comic books. That's why this shit is effed up, man. Because it's not like you're just messing with yourselves. Like, oh well, Dan Slott can pay the price for his own incompetence, or Tom Breed for it, or Marvel. But there's people that are actually looking forward to that book, or like Dan Slott's writing. And now it's not going to be Dan Slott's writing. It's going to be Dan Slott's writing with this other guy. You know what I mean? Like,
yep.
It's just a bad situation.
I have seen that 6-issue Iron Man 2020 limited series in all of its ineptitude bring comic book retailers who try to find the positive in every possible thing that Marvel does. I've seen it bring them to their knees, and they have actually gone onto YouTube and to social media and basically say, this is unacceptable. Marvel, you've got to stop doing this to us. We can't sell this crap. The things that they were hesitant to do in the past, that's the thing that finally broke them. And I think they're finally having to admit that there's very little that's good that's going on at Marvel Comics these days. It's there if you really dig for it, but most of it is just a dumpster fire.
Yeah. Right. I am proud to be your spirit animal, by the way. Proud, sir.
Oh.
Yeah.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'm just looking at the chat here, Art, and I've seen a couple of interesting little takes in here. Yes, Spirit Scar, it's always condescending. But there are a lot of people in here that seem to think that Marvel is doing this and other things in order to justify the elimination of Marvel Comics division. I've been hearing this talk for many months. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that you're wrong. I'm not saying that there are not indicators to that. We've talked about it here on Pontificators, but I'm kind of this particular, Marvel 616 episode we're talking about. I don't feel that applies. What do you think about that, guys?
I think it's one of many different pontifications that we could come up with. I want to see what Zach has to say and Jason as well, because to me, quite frankly, it boggles my mind. I've tried, because usually what I try to do when I can't figure something out is I follow the money. You know what I mean? I'm like, okay, the money always makes sense. Almost every situation, if you follow the money, then you can kind of get to the root of what's going on. But even if you follow the money, I don't frickin' understand any of this. But also, just to be quite frank, I don't understand the agenda-driven anything either, because it usually ends up in not making money and pissing off your fan base. So most of the stuff that's happening in comics, I don't understand. So Zach hasn't spoken. Well, what's your pontification on this?
Well, to be honest, like my thing is that when I first heard about this, I was like, wait, so are they trying to make it into a reality TV show kind of thing, where it's like all of a sudden, there's drama, and maybe they blew it out of, like, we don't, because they film it and then the editors edit it a very specific way to give off a very specific story. So it could have actually not even been as bad as they framed it, but they framed it so much worse to create drama, to sell it more, because people are drawn to, factor, shock factor of things. So it's just like, it might have been like really, really, really boring, and nothing was going on. So they like created their own drama in order to make the episode interesting, and then this is the way it came out. You know, so I'm wondering how much of this is because I'm gonna go and watch the episode like probably tomorrow, you know, after eating lots of turkey, and then I'll you know be able to see like, did they frame it, or was this like, you know, was this a hit piece, you know, because in a lot of ways like you'll you know, in Survivor. They'll frame drama in such a weird way, and then they'll have like interviews of the people that were on it afterwards, and they get asked questions like, "Oh, in this episode, you know, there was like this really big tension between you and him, and it seemed like you guys were going to kill each other." And they're like, "No, like we were like best friends the whole entire time, and we don't know what you're talking about." You know, like they had like one time when they were like, "Yeah, screw you," you know, like just one time they were being playful, but the way they frame it makes it look like they're gonna like there's like, oh man, ooh, you know. So I don't know.
Well, I think that you could be onto something, but having said that, you can create drama, like you could have set it up in such a way like, is Dan Slott going to be able to pull the deadline out of his ass? You know, is this book going to come out X, Y, Z, right? So that's how you set up. That's the drama, right? But then you pay it off like, yes, they did, and here's the comic. Make mine Marvel. You know what I mean? Like, that's how you usually spin this stuff. Like, you do set up the drama, but then you go, I think somebody said, make mine Marvel, and just inspired me to say that. He says, no.
Nice.
So, you know, like, that's kind of like your beginning, middle, and end. You know, you set up, it's like, will Dan Slott be able to pull off his deadline? Will Tom Brevoort be able to whip this guy into shape? You know what I mean? Are they going to have to bring in this other writer to bail him out? You know, because then you have Tom Brevoort, you know, talking to this other writer and saying, I'm not sure Dan Slott's going to be able to pull this off, you know, that kind of thing. And then
619 in the house.
Yeah, you create all this doubt, you know, but then you pay it off with like, yeah, but we got this book, and Dan Slott pulled off the deadline. So then everybody gets to see the drama. They get to see the day in the life. They get to see how far sometimes these things go and how close to deadline you actually come to, you know, to not getting things done.
Yeah.
You know, that's kind of how you do it. But the way it's set up, it's like it makes everybody look bad. It makes Marvel look bad. It makes Brevoort look bad, and it makes Dan Slott look bad.
You know, it's interesting too, because there are many websites that are covering this. Some of them, you know, always wanting Marvel to fail, and other ones that are just kind of sick and tired of the nonsense, et cetera, et cetera. But they're all taking the same kind of take we are, that this seems inappropriate. This seems like an attack. What's the premise here? What's the idea? But would you like to hear what Rich Johnson over Bleeding Cool thinks? Let's hear what he has to say.
Yeah.
He does a little bit of bleating, as he usually does, and then he gets to the point. Episodes in this anthology series will cover topics including Marvel's world-spanning artists, the trailblazing women of Marvel, discovering the forgotten characters of Marvel, and much more. But this weekend, as the series dropped, the episode most people had eyes for was the Dan Slott feature, which, through presumably intending to be a piece of self-deprecating whimsy, has instead been interpreted as a baffling form of self-assassination. Well, thank you, Mr. Johnson.
Exactly.
The exact opposite take of everybody else.
Right.
And this
right?
is Rich
Meaning
Johnson.
It was just supposed to be funny.
Christoph Gage is he's the writer that filled in for Dan Slott. So there's Dan and there's Tom Brevoort. Is this the?
But I mean, I think it is. It looks like it, yeah. But I just find it funny that no matter what controversy may come up, Rich Johnson is always going to defend the Disney lawyers. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Whimsy.
But yeah, this is the Disney. Oh, there's poor Christos Gage. I'm Dan's deadline helper. Like, this guy is a great writer, and he's been reduced to Dan's deadline helper.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, here's the poor letterer right here. Yeah.
Poor guy.
By the time I got the script from Dan, it's usually about 2 days before the book has to go to press. 2 days before the book has to go to press.
Wow.
I'm always sending a text.
He's a pro then.
Begging and pleading, someone please send me the script. This is this guy's actual, testimonial. Please, he begs to Marvel. He begs to the writer, please, someone send me the script. Oh my gosh.
Art, can I ask a question? I mean, you worked in Marvel, so you can answer this question directly. I'm sure many of you can, but I might be under some kind of misconception. But what I understand the Marvel method to be is something that Stan Lee put in a long time ago to speed up the process of making comic books. Am I correct?
Yes.
Yeah, what it is it's kind of a real quick breakdown. And to be honest, to elaborate on that, sometimes Stan Lee wouldn't even write it down. Like he would just go out to lunch, or he'd have the artist come in and he'd go, "This is the next issue of Spider-Man," and he'd give them beginning, middle, and end, and then he'd go draw it. And the reason it makes sense for Stan is because he wrote all those books. You know what I mean? So it makes sense for somebody like that to have, to create a method that he can get in and out of these things quickly. Somebody like Dan Slott, he does write a lot of books for them, but he's not writing an entire universe. And also, just to give Stan a little bit of credit, Stan was also creating a universe.
Yeah, well, Stan is a unique individual, it's true. But my point being is, several times they mention in this article that Dan Slott is a believer and follower of the Marvel method. He is. We've seen it said several times here. Therefore, if he is a person who does the Marvel method as a writer, why is he so slow?
Because I'll tell you something. Okay, I'm gonna come back. Stop sharing here. I've been around, like sometimes you think you look at an artist and you see all this line work and you see all the backgrounds. Like you look at George Perez, okay, and you think George Perez takes forever to do a page, right? But he doesn't. Like he can do like a crazy amount of detail and work into each panel and still get things done quicker than somebody that might be more minimal in their approach. And I'm not casting shade like with Adam Kubert, but Adam Kubert, if you look at the work, it's relatively simple compared to a George Perez, and you would think George must just labor and spend hours, but he doesn't. Adam Kubert, when you look at the work, you go, this looks like it was done really, really quick. But what Kubert does is he spends a lot of time in layouts. Like he's developing shots, he's putting storytelling together. So there's a lot of behind the scenes stuff that he does. And then, he commits to the actual board. But when you look at the actual board, it's probably not as detailed as George Perez. So sometimes it can be deceiving. You can see somebody that there's a lot of work on a page and you go, that guy took forever, but he may not have. So my thing is that just because you're using the Marvel way or Marvel method or something seems simple, sometimes it's not. It just depends on what your process is. And from what I hear, and this is rumors, that Dan Slott is a Twitter whore.
A lot of them are.
Yeah,
certainly.
So
he has strong opinions. Yeah,
he spends a lot of time, trolling and stuff like that on Twitter. So I think even in that 616, there's like an interruption. Like he goes, "Oh, a Twitter!" Like he's writing, and then he gets bing, and he's like, "Oh, I got to check that out." So he actually stops his writing to go check out a tweet. And so I think, sometimes, this too, Chester, you've been in the studio with musicians. Sometimes people are like, they're like, "Ooh, shiny." Like they're easily distracted from the work. And so all those things end up taking, its toll on productivity. And so I don't know. I mean, there's various things. It's hard to answer like what Dan Slott's problem is, but also it could be a crutch. Like, oh, I'm using this very, very simple method, but it's just buying him time to just bang it out in an evening. You know what I mean? Like he's procrastinating and doing all this other stuff, but then he can just bang it out, in one evening.
Well, That it's interesting you make the musician comparison to that, because with my own band, they're all a bunch of old guys. I'm actually the youngest in the band, so we don't have that problem. But I do go up and help in the city to the north with young people who are trying to do studio session work and trying to do stuff like that, and I'll help them, out with setups, layouts, how to set your mics up, that kind of just standard crap, right? And they're younger, and I ban phones from being in the studio. I don't allow it.
Good.
But yeah, it's ridiculous because they do like the shiny thing. But the last question I do have, and it's a legitimate question, is I have only read one, or actually it was a couple comic books, but I've only read one thing from Dan Slott, and it was Spider-Man, and it wasn't good. So my question is, just as an aside, has he ever done anything good? I mean, like we have what's that idiot can't shut his mouth that did Kingdom Come?
Mark Waid.
Mark Waid. Kingdom Come is more Alex Ross than anything, but it's not bad. So Mark Waid can do his job occasionally, but I only know the one thing from Dan Slott, and it's not good. So my question is, has he done anything good in the past that warrants this loyalty?
There are some people who say, and I just have to take their word for it because I did not read any of Slott's early work. There are some people who say that in the early days, when he was actually hungry and wanted to prove himself, that he could write good comics. But the consensus that I've heard from people I've chatted with about this, who have followed his career and read a lot of his stuff, is that it seems like once he got comfortable, then he just started slacking off and has been there ever since.
Okay.
Yeah, and I read his Into the Spider-Verse. I'm not sure if I read it from start to finish, the big series, but there were parts of it that I thought were interesting. So the idea itself was pretty cool, but I don't know how much of that was, Dan Slott or editorial. I always thought it was Dan Slott's idea, so I really can't. I haven't read a lot of his work. So I can't really compare it, but I've heard the same thing, Joe, that like his early, especially run on Spider-Man and stuff, people really think it was well done. So
yeah, but I personally felt the Into the Spider-Verse, which is what I'm talking about with the Dan Slott stuff. What my personal take on that was corporate saying we want Miles Morales and Spider-Gwen, make it happen, and they just used it to drag them into the 616, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
That's what I got from it. That's what I felt was.
I really don't know. I was thinking about this the other day. I think it's been at least 15 years since I worked at Marvel. So that's almost decades or decade and a half. So I don't really know what Marvel's like at all today. I was just thinking about that. I did live stream the other day, and it was a Q&A, and as things were happening, I was thinking, I have no idea. Like, I can't even really comment on the current state of Marvel other than what everybody else is seeing. And then stuff like this 616 happens, and you're just like, what the hell? Why would you even do this? Like, do you have aren't you even looking out after your own corporate self-image? Like, Disney owns Marvel. Why would they do this?
It is weird.
And there was a shift. See, if you left around 2005 time frame, there was a distinct shift about 3 to 4 years after you left, where Disney bought Marvel in 2009, and there had been some, let's say, hints around the 2008 time frame as to where Marvel might go with their current direction, and then it seemed like they eased off of that. So I'm guessing so that the everything would be nice and calm for the corporate buyout when Big Papa Disney came in. And then there's a couple years where it seemed like things were cool, and then in 2012 they had you, and people who've worked in comics know the production schedule means if something big comes out in 2012, you started planning it in 2010 and into 2011. Your production is in 2011, and then you launch it in 2012. 2012 was when the big Carol Danvers is Captain Marvel kind of propaganda crusade was dropped with Marvel Comics.
Right.
And a lot of people would say it's been downhill ever since.
Yeah, that's fair enough. Yeah, you do have a couple comments over here I thought were interesting. The Christian Nomad says, Dan Slott made 3 Spider-Man issues that were amazing, but I haven't liked a single issue otherwise. I didn't read those, I guess, because I don't get the whole Dan Slott thing personally, but I haven't read his whole portfolio. Then we have, what is this? Clownfish TV says, Disney hates Marvel Comics because T-shirts make them more money with a hell of a lot less hassle. Comics mean nothing to the mouse. I agree with that 100%.
Yeah, and two, it's been speculated that they don't even need it as an IP farm anymore either, because what has Marvel been around for 70 years or however the hell? I don't think it's been 70, but since the early 60s, early mid 60s. So they have all of those stories, all of those characters to mine from. They don't really need new stuff, and I do believe also that's why they're trying like this new like more agenda driven stuff, because I speculated on this a year or so ago that what I think that might be happening is that you have like 2 Marvels. You have the Marvel film and then you have the Marvel publishing. And so I was thinking that since I know Disney is trying more agenda, trying to kind of reshape the way we view our stories and see heroes and see the world, that maybe instead of doing that with the Marvel Cinematic Universe, they're trying it out with the comic books, which is a lot cheaper. And if it fails or gets a bunch of shit, and a bunch of backlash, well, that's the comic book. That's not the film. So it's kind of like a way of trying to see how the agenda works in a safe way, versus like, $200 million in a film. It might cost 30 to 50,000, to make a comic book. I don't know how much it takes to make a Marvel comic. Actually, it's probably a little high, especially with the artists they are using these days. Have you seen that Captain Marvel artwork? Oh,
I'm guessing it costs $174 to produce that comic.
Well, did you see, like when Chester was saying the Marvel 616, they even said like, oh, let's talk to. They made it sound like it was a plus, like, oh, Marvel hires throughout the land, right? They don't just hire American. They go to Brazil. They go to the Philippines. They go all these other places, and they're making it sound like it's a grand thing. I'll tell you, and everybody who works in the industry knows, they work cheaper.
That's right. Yeah, it's about money. And there, not to say there aren't plenty of non-Americans that don't do great work, because there are. But that's not the point. The point is they go to Indonesia and spend a penny on the dollar. Yeah.
But I'm not saying that those guys are bad. There's really
some of them are pretty bad.
Yeah, but they're not all bad. But they still charge as much as somebody in the States would. You know what I mean? So you could get like an A-list level artist in Brazil, and it would still be cheaper than getting an A-list artist here in the States. So they're not all bad. That's what else. It freaks me out, like that Captain Marvel art. Can anybody find that where she's got that big nose, that big old?
Well, I actually covered that on my show art, and what that was representing the voices of Native Americans, and these are Native Americans that have been hired to come in and do art and show the wonder of the what do we call them? Indians? No, American Indians. I'm not sure what the word is now, but. Indigenous is that First Nations. Let's go Canadian. And they didn't look very hard, because there were a couple there that weren't bad, and then there was a lot of crap. And I cannot believe that there aren't actual Native Americans that aren't great artists. So it's like, well, how hard did you really go after, or were these just people that made noise, and therefore you said, well, let's collect them together and hear their voices? That's kind of the problem. Activism. We have an expression, of course. The greasy wheel gets the squeaky wheel gets the oil, the grease, right? But I kind of prefer the Japanese proverb where it says, "The nail that sticks up gets hammered down."
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
It's like saying, "Take care of business," right? There's a problem. Let's take care of it. Done. Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. It's very, very immediate. Yeah, so like always, like I said, like I try to figure out things like follow the dollar, but with a lot of stuff that's happening right now, it doesn't make any sense in a traditional, capitalistic way. Like because you see it and you see that there isn't the dollar attached. They aren't making money, and then you see the industry kind of crumbling with poor comic book shops that have been basically holding up this industry for the last couple decades, and then you see now we're not even standing by those guys. They're not, Marvel's not giving them product that they can sell. People aren't asking for, like, I want more diversity in my comics. I think most people are saying, I just want Peter Parker to be Spider-Man and tell some good action adventure G versus E stories. Like that's all most people want. So the only thing I can see is like that we know that Bob Iger wants to be the next president, and we know that he was trying to kind of get himself into some kind of position. So I think that the only thing that makes sense for me in the long run for like the Igers and these power players is they're going to get money on that end. You know what I mean? Like they're gaining power. The power is, they already have enough money at this point. They just want the power, but they're also going to get money at the same time. So if he can fundamentally change the way you view good versus evil stories, you know what I mean? Like if he can kind of change the way we see right and wrong, and he can kind of interject agenda in this way that's kind of false. Like it doesn't feel organic. Most people think that, like most people treat each other okay. Most people are okay with different genders and different,
Sure.
races and things like that. Like this isn't even a true narrative, but they're saying it is. So then they create these stories that now have to combat that. It's a completely false narrative. But I always think, like as a politician, if you can change the way people think and you can kind of influence them, then you can I guess rule, you can control, you be the president, you can do these things. And so I thought, like, the only thing that always made sense for me was like that Iger was kind of grooming himself to be this guy, because it's not just Marvel, like it's the other Disney IPs as well that are kind of going woke, I guess.
Yeah, Art, if you want to click on the link I put in the chat, that's the Captain Miss Piggy Marvel.
Okay.
And someone's brave attempt to try and fix what we saw on the page. Can
you send it through Twitter?
Yeah.
I don't know how to grab it this way.
Sure. There you go.
So we're going to get the Miss Piggy. This is the image, you guys, that we were talking about. As soon as it gets here.
Well, Christian Nomad's talking about the ones of Dan Slott that he likes, Superior Spider-Man, which is a very strange take and Amazing Spider-Man. But although I did read a couple of Superior, and they weren't that bad. But I was also, so therefore I came over here and looked at what Dan Slott has done in his bibliography here. And he's the guy behind the Brand New Day stuff.
Brand New Day. Did Dan Slott write Superior with?
Sounds like he did a couple of them.
Yeah, he did Superior and he did Amazing.
I like.
He did a lot of Amazing. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think all those guys have to do something that's good at some point. You know what I mean? Or otherwise, they wouldn't really be in the position that they are. But like somebody said on the show, they're just kind of resting on their laurels. So if you guys haven't seen this image,
yeah, it's really bad.
This is what Marvel has become. I think somebody on one stream was talking about standards. Maybe it was Neon and Geeky on Clownfish TV, but they were talking about like Marvel used to have standards for their artists. And there was the Marvel way, and there was all this kind of pride that went into creating comic books and standards that they needed their artists to hit. And I don't know, man. There's nothing about this that is even not. It's one, aesthetically, it's not attractive, and two, look at the hand. The one hand's busted up, and also the hand that's in the foreground is smaller than the hand holding the phone. You know, like there's all kinds of just busted up shit in here. The costume, the collar doesn't work. The face is ugly. Her eyes aren't even symmetrical.
It's really bad. This is an actual Morrow comic book, though. Understand that.
Right. The colorist rocked it. Look at the color work, man. Like somebody went to bat here. But this is not even like a good, just quick layout idea. This is really bad.
From composition to line work. I mean, you said it, Art. There's so much that's broken here, and my guess is that whoever was supposedly editing this wasn't actually editing it. They were scheduling the freelancers to do the work, and then they were sending it off to the printer, whatever they got in. That's my guess.
Yeah, they were just paper pushers. They were just moving things along. When I would get samples like at Comic Cons and stuff, and I would see artwork like this, and from an inker standpoint and just clarity, I would always go, this is like fan work, because
submission.
Because the level of understanding with just clarity is just absolutely not hitting the mark. Most of this line work is just mud. It's like an inker term where everything just kind of turns into just garbage. So it just gets muddy and it's hard to see. So just as far as like any of this line work, especially under the armpit here, like what the hell is that? Like there's a bunch of unnecessary movement and lines that don't follow any real pattern or progression as far as thin to thick. They don't really create the desired effect, which is kind of like a hatch and a crosshatch, which gives you a gray tone. It really does. A lot of this feels very arbitrary, and it's just not committed to very well.
Well, I got a question for you, Art, because over the past couple of years of hanging out with you artists, I've learned a couple of things. I'm not that thick, Joe. I know. I saw you thinking that. All right. But I feel like someone with the heavier line weight on the outside, someone went in, maybe the colorist, went in and put some heavy lines to try to give some shape to it. I feel like someone came in after the fact to try to put a little try to fix it.
Yeah,
I used to
refer to that. Yeah, I used to refer to that in a very derogatory way among my inker friends, and it's like it's the cheapest way of trying to establish depth. It's not sophisticated, and I used to refer to it as just like it's a coloring book. How coloring books have that big holding line around everything. So when you color, if you go outside the line a little bit, it's okay.
Yep.
And also so when the Crayola goes over the black line, you don't lose the black line. So like that's what it reminds me of. It's very, very simplistic. In a coloring book, at least it makes sense. Like I know why they're doing it, because there's going to be a thick old waxy Crayola that's going to go over the line. But in a comic book, that's not the case. So you'd like to be a little bit more sophisticated with it and so on. So yeah, I mean, there's nothing good about that piece. And I'll tell you, if they paid more than $25, $30 a page for that artist, they were probably paying too much. And I'll tell you right now, that is below poverty rate here in the States, because it still probably took that artist 6 hours, maybe longer, to do that whole page, and they got $25, $30 to do it.
Yeah.
That's slave labor. That's
well, keep in mind that was also in an anthology, so that was one of the artists in that anthology. Like I said, it's Native American Voices was what that book was.
Right.
So that person only had a few pages, actually.
So I bet you they got $25 a page.
Yeah.
Why would you give them any more? But it's weird because okay, this is the hypocrisy of the whole thing. We just figured it out, Chester. Okay, so this is like the celebration of Native Americans, right? And
Sure.
then what does this American company do? They exploit the talent. I guarantee you that person did not get a workable wage to draw that page. You know what I mean? So what are you doing, Marvel? You're still exploiting them.
The American way.
The American way. But it's all it's all fair because if you accept the job, then like it is what it is. So I don't fault that. But if you're going to virtue signal, then that's when I scrutinize. When I go, okay, wait, you're trying to get some virtue points here, but at the same time you're paying this guy crap wages. Or girl, I don't know who drew the image, but
well, it's also disrespectful to her, or him. I think they were all girls actually, but it's disrespectful to that person because you're acting as if they have some potential, and you're not therefore enforcing in them the concept of work harder, do better, right? This is a very bad thing. And mentioning the idea of abusing your staff for your own profit, we did have a president. His name was Teddy Roosevelt, who fought strongly against the robber barons. That's why he got shot. And we've been after this stuff for quite a while. But it seems to keep leaking in. But your point there, Art, about Marvel abusing artists and low pay and all this kind of stuff with international artists who they pay a ridiculously small amount of money. It's quite disgusting.
Yeah, especially when you're virtue signaling. Like if you're wearing it on your sleeve, like the old Marvel, we're going to exploit you and we're going to use you and we're going to drive you to the ground, which was pretty much the Marvel way. When you got there, you knew that you were going to be adversarial. You know what I mean? Like you knew what you were up against. But with somebody that's virtue signaling and claiming to be virtuous, then what you do, you think, well, this person's very fair-minded and they're not going to exploit you and so on and so forth. But in the long run, like I said, I'm speculating, but I almost guarantee you that person that drew that page didn't get paid very much.
I'm sure. Yeah, but then Al Gore. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, to your point, Chester, I think it's dishonest on the part of Marvel to publish work like that as though it's professional quality. And it does the aspiring artist no favors. Okay, so you can say you got published by Marvel, but you try and sell that quality of artwork anywhere else, any other project, you're lucky if you can find someone in the indies to publish that, because as an artist, you're simply not ready for professional quality work.
You know how come I know you're onto something here, Joe? Okay.
What's that?
This is why they're hypocrites. This is why they're full of shit, is because I guarantee you Marvel doesn't have faith in that image. Let's just say it was more of a commercial image of her, like she's flying forward, something you could make a t-shirt out of, let's just say. Okay, so if that was more of a marketable Captain Marvel image, right, not holding a cell phone or something like that, but it was drawn the same way, they would not make it into a t-shirt because they'd go, this is grotesque and this is ugly. So if it doesn't hit the standard for a t-shirt, then it shouldn't be in a comic book. When I worked at Marvel, almost everything we were doing on the X books, even panels that they kicked ass, they were cutting those things out and they were making t-shirts of them and stuff like that. So the proof's in the pudding. If they have faith in that, then I want to see a Captain Marvel t-shirt based on that person's artwork. I want to see that, because like somebody in the chat, I think it might have been Neon, was saying, like, that's what they're an IP farm. They're just exploiting. They're just exploiting the stuff to sell T-shirts and knickknacks and whatever else.
Well, and to to your point, Art, I remember when you were on those books at Marvel, I remember seeing in even just run-of-the-mill department stores, there would be shirts and hats and stuff with art from you and your colleagues from Marvel, and that was the art that was on the t-shirts. The last 7, 8, 10 years, I mean, you walk into any sort of run-of-the-mill store in the US, I almost guarantee you're only going to find vintage Marvel art on the shirts, on the hats, because that's the only stuff that'll sell. They've tried to sell the other crap over the last 10 years, and it just rots on the shelves. So they went back to the vintage stuff, and then that started selling again.
Yep. You know what's great is I got half of the T-Bear vault. It's T-shirts. It's a stack. It's a stack like this.
Yeah.
T-shirts. And the old Marvel that was disgusting. This is how come when I'm saying they're adversarial and they're, you know what I mean? Like, you know where you stand. They were pulling this artwork from the comics, cover, stuff like that. They weren't paying us. Like,
yeah, right.
Like you sign they used to have this to get your paycheck. You had to sign this mini contract on the back where you sign your name, and it was waiving every conceivable right you had to anything. Like you were signing, and they're like, we can exploit any image, we can exploit your name, we can do whatever, blah blah blah. And so you had to. It was almost like blackmail to get your money. You had to sign this contract and send it in. So you were basically, to get paid, you were signing an unsignable, what should be an unsignable contract.
Yeah.
Well, that does happen a lot, and I do have a picture for you to show, what Miss Marvel should look like. But this plying on activism is nothing new. Of course, it's been going a long time. A lot of people have made a lot of money. Al Gore made tens of millions of dollars off of dying polar bears. Keep that in mind. And of course, during this current pandemic and this wear your mask and stay inside, there's been a lot of money made. A lot of money.
This is the whole green.
Oh yeah.
Like I remember, because everybody still thinks the Democrats are the poor. Oh, they don't really make that much money as a party, right? And they always think
they're the Wall Street. They're the Wall Street.
They're the Wall Street people.
Yeah. It's green deals and all this stuff.
Silicon Valley.
Big business. They've eclipsed like the Republicans as far as money generated. I'm sorry, Chester. I just wanted to help, enforce your point.
Oh, no. You're right. And I wasn't being particularly political about it. I was just talking about people preying upon activism. Never let a good emergency or dire situation go to waste, of course. But if you want to get into politics, if you go back historically and you look since the founding of America, every dirty deed and ugly, nasty thing against humanity that's ever been done has been done by one group of people specifically. They call themselves Democrats. Democrats. You go back and you look at it, and you study American history, which everybody should do, which they don't seem to do anymore. The Democrats are behind all of that insidious shit.
Yep.
Sorry, Zach. Go ahead.
No. I was just saying they were done dirt cheap. They were dirty deeds, and they were done dirt cheap.
They were done dirt cheap.
There you go, AC/DC. And I was just going to say that Jason's completely down with it, and he still pretty much practices the same practices, just exploiting and using. You are like the Democratic Party of comics.
You are.
I try to be fair, but I always get kind of shot down. But okay, whatever, guys. That's fine.
I did go on the show, Jason. I did go on the show because you always go where I don't think you're gonna go. Like you were all like, oh yeah, no, I'm not like I always do this, but somehow I always end up doing, screwing somebody over or whatever you were saying. I'm putting words in your mouth. But
it happens, man. Life is a series of follies, and
that is true.
We just kind of stumble our way through it, and we can't blame everybody or one particular set of people for everything, Chester, but it's okay to generalize sometimes if you're feeling angry, and I understand.
Do you challenge me, sir? Would you like to have a history off?
No.
Hey, in our current situation, I would just like to say that Republicans are just as useless.
Oh no, I wasn't. That's true, but I'm talking about the real nasty stuff. Republicans are simple, dude.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, the thing is, though, it's just like there's people on both sides, and it's never just one side. But like,
well, not really, dude. Because if you look at it, we can break this down very simply. Republicans are just greedy. But they understand.
Just greedy.
They understand. They're no. Well, let me explain why it doesn't hurt you as much. Because they understand that in order for them to make money, you need to have money to spend money on their shit, right? So they need to make sure you have money in your pocket the best they can. This is their greed. It's not for you. It's for them. Okay. Democrats are always the one doing the insidious stuff, the evil things, Jim Crow, slavery. Our Declaration of Independence not even being allowed to have the all men are created equal. Those damn southern states forcing John Adams and Jefferson to take it off. This has been going on since the beginning, dude. Since the beginning. It's a very different thing. I'll take a greedy bastard that wants to make sure I have money in my pocket so I can buy his shit any day over someone who wants to put a whole race of people under their heel.
I'm going to put the punctuation here. I think it's capitalism. Like capitalism, it is no one intercedes, right? If no government official tries to come in and buy and help the banks out or help the automotive, whatever. If capitalism is left in its purest state, it is by nature and just by the way it's developed is fair, is the fairest way of commerce that's ever been created. Because if I create a widget and it's really expensive and it's not that great, then somebody can create a better widget at a cheaper price and then put me out of business. Mm-hmm. So that isn't decided by these two parties. It's decided by the people that buy the widgets, right? So in its purest state,
it's our fault.
In the purest state, it does work. But it only doesn't work when you have government getting involved and you have greedy, corporations doing shady shit and stuff like that. That's when capitalism gets effed up. And I think that's why, sometimes the Republicans get the bad rap, because if it is about money, and it's pure, like I said, pure capitalism, that's fine. But as well as I do, those guys are doing some shady ass shit with their money.
Of course they are. But you're interrupted Jason's touche, sir.
Okay.
I don't recall actually agreeing to parlay with you. But if I were to do so, I would say that in the past 250 years since this nation was created, that there has been a interesting amount of shady shit that's gone down. Yes, by both parties. I still don't believe that naming Democrats as the main focus for all evils in the United States isn't entirely justified.
Politically, it is.
I mean, I suppose if you want to throw that out there, you could always do that. I mean, that's your opinion, obviously. There has been a party flip in the last 250 years, as you know. And there was, in America, slavery was made into an institution.
Sure.
It was horrible. And we were good at it in a way that a country shouldn't be. And it's created who the heck?
That was me.
Okay. It's created a lot of tension in our country. And in doing so, it divides us in weird ways. And single-handedly blaming a whole group of people doesn't do anything but perpetuate bad feelings. Like, it just makes me want.
I really wish you'd go to San Francisco and stand on a soapbox, brother. I really wish you would.
Why?
Because you're making sense. Of course, I'm being verbose.
You're being an ass.
That's what I am being verbose. But my point that I'm trying to make is the fact that, of course, we should not be so dogmatic in our approach to things and singular-mindedness. We need to be more open-minded and understanding that things have nuance. But then again, we're living in a country where it seems to be a good 30 to 50% of the population says, fuck all y'all. because your opinion doesn't matter. Thus, my point. Thank you. You're great, Jason. I love you.
So
yeah, it's very extreme. Like the political, the two sides are very extreme, and they're not trying to find any middle ground.
No.
Yeah.
So if you can, when things work best is when there is an exchange of ideas and there's a mutual respect. And then the best ideas rise to the top. But that's what I always used to think people strived for, especially politicians. But in this day and age, when you have what was it? It was Hillary and Donald Trump in the debates, years back. After debate, they didn't shake each other's hand. Like if you have two parties that can't even acknowledge each other in a respectful way, in that moment at the end of a debate, it's done. You know what I mean? Like one of the things when I played Little League or sports, like whether you win or lose, you go and you shake the person's hand. You say, "Good game, good game."
Yeah,
and what
I agree.
Is it teaches you a mutual respect. So whether you win or lose, it doesn't matter. You try to win.
It matters, Art. It matters.
It does. It can. I mean, it feeds the ego. It's a good thing.
It tries at least politically. You're trying to put a good face on. You're trying to say, yeah, even though we're adversarial and we ripped each other to shreds at this debate, we're still mutually respectful to each other. And at least
it should be that way. Yeah.
But when those two guys, like Hillary and Trump didn't shake hands, I was like, that's it.
Uh-oh.
Right.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
go ahead.
Go ahead, Jason. No, go ahead.
I actually respect the fact that somebody like Obama, when he was leaving the office, doing the transition, and during that time, he was very encouraging. He made sure to let him know that, hey, if you need me, I'm right here. Just hit me up. I can answer any questions. Yeah. And it seemed like it was a very respectful thing. And it seemed at the time that, we were going to see a very, very well-spoken Trump, take that in, which he did. And then he was like, I want to thank the Obamas and do all this stuff. And then immediately it kind of became that shit show. And I appreciate that in any person, a person who can speak and speak well and not do it above a regular tone of voice while having a conversation. And in fact, in most cases, this type of conversation me and Cornelius couldn't have in most cases, because if this was YouTube, we'd be yelling at each other right now, in exclamation points and stuff. No, you know what I mean. Twitter. So, but
YouTube.
But in this case, sorry guys, but in this case, we're able to have a very civil conversation. And I actually, I like this guy. I've been on the Pontificators for a while, so I'm willing to listen to other people's opinions, and I'm willing to be wrong, because that's part of learning. And I'd rather learn every day of my life than be a stagnant, stuck person who can't grow. So
you don't want to be like Joe, who's always right?
Excuse me?
You don't want to be like Joe Thunderbuns, who's always right?
No, because Joe is always right, man. How could he not be with a fucking face like that, man?
I know. He's just a gorgeous little baby doll. But the interesting, you talked about the flip, and of course, the flip with it is really where it's got us to where we are. Because there was a flip where the Democrats were, they did their flip where they were fighting for the normal, the everyday man, the middle class, really, and the poor. But somewhere along the lines, that flipped, and then flipped again, to the point where now, shockingly, the Republicans are all about the middle class, and the Democrats have turned themselves into the corporate speak. How the hell did that happen?
Technology.
Right. I mean, think about it, right? Because that's progress. Where we are.
I mean, it's a really progressive thought process, actually.
Is it? I'm listening now. All right.
It's, to embrace technology, to know that this is the actual, 1 billion people are on, or I'm sorry, 2 billion are on Facebook, which is, I believe, what, 1/3 of the Earth's population or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
That shit's amazing. Getting information in real time, teaching people, even though it's different in different places, like culturally, there are certain situations where people shouldn't like jump into that and think that they should change it, much like the conquistadors coming and trying to convert everybody to Christianity or whatever.
Sure.
You know, and I kind of take this weird Arthur C. Clarke type of aspect of things. Like if we were in space and it was like Star Trek, we can observe, but as long as we don't interfere to a certain extent, you know, things will progress naturally how they're supposed to go. I think moving forward is progressively in our minds being more open-minded to certain things is something that's good for us. So
sure. So well, tell me what happened then, because I agree with the concept that being open-minded about, you know, and therefore progressive is a potentially a good thing. I agree. But how do we get to the point where we are now that you have this so-called progressive movement, which is the most closed-minded and hateful, bigoted thing I've seen since what, the 60s?
Right, because you either do it or we'll kick your ass,
ruin
type
you.
shit. Yeah. You know, that's a terrible side effect of things, as we know, and I don't agree with that side effect.
No, I think we have to blame is actually Christian moms, believe it or not, is because that's where no, and this is and I'm a Christian and my mom's a Christian and yeah, they were the first Karens. Really, they were the ones that would go to your school. They would yell at your teachers for you. They would take care of your problems for you. And I grew up in that. I am a full on, like, my parents were divorced, so you know my mom would like go. Yeah, my mom would just go and take care of stuff. You know, like and but they were the first Karens. They were the first cancel culture. They were. Right. You know, you would always hear on like in the news, like angry moms are angry today because teachers are teaching sex in school. You know, like like they're trying to get a teacher fired, or they're trying to get like their boss fired for something. You know what I mean? It was like they were the first ones, and then the I don't want to say the liberals. I'm just saying like like people that with more nefarious means other than protecting their children saw, hey, that works. Complaining about things and accusing things and doing that stuff, that works. So that's what we should do. And that's
the word you want is progressive, Zach, not liberal.
Yeah, but I'm trying not to. I'm trying not to lump liberal. Yeah. I'm trying not to lump people into just like one huge category. I want to like say like specifically like nefarious people who saw a chance to take advantage of a situation, and they're like, this works, so this is what we should do.
I think Art is hinting at us. He's on a tear here.
Okay. So I have an interesting thing here.
I'm giving a subtext to everything you guys do. That basically sex sells. So when everything else, it's like, sex. Yeah.
There are two basic arguments being discussed, and we're just trying to provide two basic illustrations to reinforce both of your points.
Beautiful. Yes, I agree. Everything.
Thank you, Joe. Nice. That's perfect.
Wait. Was that who I thought it was? Who was that?
Connolly. That was Connolly.
Oh, yeah.
So,
if there was any confusion, I can perhaps provide a clarifying picture.
Yep, there we go.
I am being tag teamed against. That's what's happening here. They're trying to silence my voice.
I'm not trying to silence you, buddy. You can talk all you want.
Go ahead, Jason.
No, Joe and I are just trying to give a visual backdrop to what you guys are talking about. That's all.
Mm-hmm.
So, at some point when we were talking about that separation, where everybody kind of switched over, so there's always been a weird separation between blue collar and white collar people.
Sure.
And I was talking with Marco Galli, a friend of mine, who's an inker and a letterist. And we were talking about how artists easily subvert certain social classes. You're not quite blue collar, but you're not quite white collar. And if you're a creator, you kind of are in between. And when you're trying to float between two worlds, and this is purely from, let's just say, a consumeristic point of view, because we live in a country that basically puts that capitalism on its highest level. So when you're merging in between two classes like that, you kind of got to take a weird, like, sidestep to everything. It's not like you don't have an opinion, but you know that your blue collar friends don't agree with your white collar friends, and they have different point of views. And I'm just trying to live in the middle. And I'm a liberal guy. I'm actually kind of, if you were to classify me, I guess I would be a left-leaning liberal person. So just left of center. And I want everybody to be happy, and I want everybody to have the same opportunities as I've had. But that's all based upon essentially regional stuff and stuff you can't control. Like, you can't control anybody else's reaction to you. You can only control your reaction to stuff. Mm-hmm. So when I see a country divided by social class, like it, like my little brother is a blue collar type person. He doesn't understand like where I come from as an artist. I'm the older brother. He doesn't understand that I draw stuff. He understands I draw stuff, but he doesn't know why people pay me money to draw stuff. Like, it's not, and I don't think it's like a pissed off jealous thing. I think it's I just don't get it. It's not hard work. Well, it is hard work. I'm as much of a blue collar guy as I am a white collar guy. When
I read through my day, it's easy, man. A couple hours, I'm done, and I move on.
You're just so good at it, man. Like, I can see you.
I'm just trying to crack a joke.
Well, I understand the point you're making. I do understand that, and of course, I think any sensible person understands and agrees with the aspects of it. But for me, my point is, things have gotten to such a point that the simple concept of compassion and respect for your fellow man has been lost. Mm-hmm. And this is not only destructive to culture, it is just simply destructive to oneself. Right. I don't think politics matters so much when it comes down to it, because the thing that I've noticed over this past so many years, mainly during the TDS years here, is that what is I thought was initially a left-wing concept, the SJW, isn't. There are plenty of people who are as SJW as anything, and they yet would confer themselves to be the right wing. So I think it's more of a loss of compassion and respect for our fellow man, and I'm kind of curious how we got there. I think the easy answer is SNS in general, where you can say whatever you want and not have to look someone in the face, because there's plenty of things people say on Twitter they would never say to my face, right? So I mean, but we've lost this, and currently we're seeing far more virality on the left than we are on the right, although there is some on the right. So my point that I'm getting to is that this whole concept of the democratic politic has become so lost in a matter of decades that they've forgotten that they used to be a group that would fight for the rights of every man.
Right.
Whereas the Republicans tend to be thinking, Reaganomics is a perfect example, trickle-down economics. They think, well, we need to really support the upper class and the rich people, because ultimately the more successful they are, the more successful other people would be. Therefore, they didn't focus on the blue collar very much. But there wasn't hate involved. There was an actual principle here where they were trying to economically make the country solvent, and it has its successes. It's just, for me, we've got to the point now that it's just screaming across an aisle, and we're producing nothing, and we're getting just absolute vile hatred out of predominantly one side. And just look at these things. We have Biden coming up, and he's saying we want unity and all this kind of stuff, even though you spent 4 years trying to destroy every American who disagrees. At the same time, you have many other people today who are saying we need to get them. So how do we recover from this? How do we move forward? No matter what political opinion you might have, we find ourselves in dangerous territory.
Where's this we coming from? You're in Japan.
Right. Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
As if what happens in America doesn't affect me.
I was joking. And what does this have to do with comics? Just asking, because Art and Joe over there are kind of like.
Yeah, I get it, but the reason what it has to do with comic books is very simple. Comic books are big groups of comic books have decided to fall all in the hatred side and attack.
So Chester, I want to know, in your opinion, what percentage of people who are left-leaning do you feel are extreme?
20%.
So about the same that I would consider to be militant on the right wing also.
I would 20 years ago I'd agree with you. Right now I don't. I think the militancy on the right is a different type of thing, but I get your point.
Okay.
But yeah, 20 but when it comes right down to it, statistically 8% of any population is causing a vast majority of your trouble. Right.
Nice. So it's really interesting. So how do you think we should fix something like this? If it truly is a sheer, like, just Karens of society, as Zach would say, raising the level of anxiety in 20% of our population to this frenzied fervor. Do you like that word, fervor?
I like that word.
What do you think is the actual thing that we could do to try to fix it?
What's a step we can do to actually try to fix it? Take away the governmental protections for SNS.
Yes.
SNS.
Social network systems. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Twitter, Facebook, things like that.
Yeah. So making them accountable for their users.
Accountable.
Because literally they're so unaccountable that it allows people to literally do whatever they want. So they create this sort of like toxic, I can say anything I want to you and I can be this absolutely horrible person without any repercussion.
Right.
You know?
So
and
how do you feel
like
somebody like Tim Cast, like is he being aggressive or
no, he's great.
He's great. I consider him to be very aggressive, and
but he's an interesting case study, Jason, because here you have a liberal. Do you remind that Tim Pool came out of the whole Occupy Wall Street movement, and we've seen him over the years by learning and gaining information, being deep in it, because he is, change his opinion. That isn't, I don't think it's a political opinion. I think he's always been like that. I think he's upset that what he thought was his side has become so toxic. So Tim Pool is a very interesting light to look at, because we've seen someone change their opinion right in front of us.
Right.
So I think Tim Pool's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I see him as being very, like, having a lot of self-righteous indignation towards things, where he just kind of gets himself all riled up into this state. And I literally watched him say to a Twitter employee, he wants to be able to scream in people's face at the top of his lungs because that's his constitutional right. And I agree. That's your constitutional right to be an asshole if you want to be. But
if I could be pedantic for a moment, actually getting up and screaming in someone's face is actually called assault.
Right.
Yeah, and it's not battery. Battery is putting your hands on someone, but assault is,
It's what he was saying, and it was I believe a Joe Rogan podcast that he was on with Twitter actual execs, and he said those exact words, and it blew my mind. I was just like, really? Like this? Why would you want to do that?
But the other thing to take into account, there are a lot of laws being broken that are not being enforced. That would be the second thing I would say to fix the situation.
I'm going to chime in. I think government is overextending their boundaries.
Oh, by far.
In ways that they should never. And I don't think people understand, that this is what the government is doing. Like they are gummies.
Gummy bears.
So
for
in case, like they're, like the federal government and state government, like there's absolutely like the federals are coming more state. They're trying to control every little aspect of every individual's life. Right now, they're trying to control the schools. It should be state run. It should not be federal run. They should stay the hell out of these things. But they're trying to acclimate and try to brainwash people through the schools. That's why government's going in this direction. I think the key, just as far as just overall for me, is less government. Just minimize the government, the federal government, and start supporting more your state and your local government, and start like giving them the power, because they're the ones that can act, and they can take care of you because they're regional.
Local government.
As in a republic. My God.
Oh yeah.
Right.
People is never going to be able to take care of you. They're never going to be able to do it. They're not going to be able to treat you like you need to be. So if it's regional, it's local, then they know what the needs of the community is, and then they can deal with it. And that's the way it used to be. I think everything's going federal, and then like one of the standard rules of business: if the business isn't expanding, it's dying. So I think the way the federal government looks at what they do now is, if they're not expanding, they're dying. So everything is like, we're going to create a new division for this. We're going to create a new division for this. They never do anything. They just create a new division. So they allocate funds here. They allocate funds here. They just keep exponentially getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and just overstepping their boundaries on a regular basis. And
it's unconstitutional, actually.
It's way unconstitutional what they're doing.
Right.
It is.
Getting into states' business. They have no right getting into states' business. But there's such a line that's being crossed constantly that I don't think people even understand what's happening.
Right.
No, I think that is a problem as well, and education comes into that. And there's a lot of interesting comments here in the chat. I can't respond to all of them. I will respond to one. Metatron's Cube says words are not assault. Well, that's not what I said, and that's not what he said either. Getting up and screaming in someone's face is assault by definition. Your words are never assault. Of course, you can say whatever you want, even things we find deplorable, because that's the whole point of the rule, to protect that. But getting in someone's face, literally in their face, screaming at them, is by definition assault, guys. It is legally assault. So I understand your point, but don't misunderstand what I'm saying. I'm not saying you don't have a right to your opinion. Of course you do. You absolutely do. I was just correcting a point that, getting in someone's face is technically illegal. The words have nothing to do with it.
But a fist does.
A fist most certainly would be assault. That would be battery, actually. But,
Nice.
It is interesting.
Assault and battery, because assault and battery is verbal and physical, right?
That's right.
Right.
Yeah.
And let me answer Shane Dankus. Tim Pool is your definition of aggressive, really. He was just being aggressive in that interview. I don't see him as the definition of aggressive. Alex Jones would probably be the definition of aggressive. If we were to choose somebody like that, Mr. Shane. I appreciate you asking, though.
Yeah, but Alex is a hoot, man.
Yeah, Alex is funny.
All right. Well, we should start wrapping it up before because there's some dirty pictures of Jennifer that I have chambered. I'm not gonna.
You got to take care of something. Okay.
No, I wasn't going there. A little something popped up.
Make sure to turn off your camera, okay?
A little something.
Something that's interesting, Jason, as we change topic or just wrap up. I'm not sure what our Art wants to do, but something that's really interesting to me. You and I are having just a simple little conversation. There's no enmity or anger whatsoever. But look how heated the chat got so quick.
Right.
It shows you the
did.
temperature of the country, man.
It's true. It's true.
You know why they're getting heated? The real reason is this.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's totally possible. And you know what? I agree that the country is pretty crazy as far as divided. And you know what? Just be nice to people. If I were to see Chester, man, I'd give him a big hug and take him out for a beer. I have no problems with this guy ever, or anybody here. Like, so it's as they say, all love. So
we'll talk about Joe privately later.
That's right.
Todd's giving me good advice. I think we should.
Yeah, they don't get another strike, dude.
I think we got to get the channel. Thanks, Todd. I do
awesome.
appreciate it. Yeah. Oh, sorry about that. I'm clicking all kinds of stuff. Yeah, but we should start winding down. I do miss Bob because Bob was usually the one that would go, let's start winding down. So should I, Joe? Should I do it?
Yeah.
Do you want this? You want this to happen, Joe?
It's really how I'd like to close the evening.
Okay. So let's do it.
Are we bombing?
Look at that.
They've been taking crack shots at me for about 15 minutes, dude.
Who could have a problem with this lovely lady right here?
Nobody.
I'm gonna tell my auntie. That's it. You are being reported on, gentlemen.
Tell her she did a fine job.
She could unite the country single-handedly.
Right. Absolutely.
People on the right, people on the left, bringing them together in joy and happiness.
That's right.
Who could ask for more?
And hand jobs.
To each their own.
Right.
A hand job's not a right or left. It can be either, I guess.
It can be either. That's fine.
It's not a right or left issue.
There's no right or left bias there.
Not at all. Not at all. Especially if you're ambidextrous.
Which I am. Wait.
That is statistically improbable there, Joe. In reality, there is no women that have perfectly symmetrical breasts, sir.
That's true.
But they do have perfect.
A man can dream, Chester.
True. It's funny, the chat yells at me for using words, but it's like, dude, I'm not sitting here planning and written out. I'm just talking. What the hell? What am I supposed to do? They don't like it, Joe. What am I don't know.
We are men of pleasure. Yes, we are. Yes, we are.
All
So
right.
I fixed Miss Marvel. I fixed her.
Okay.
You did. Oh, nice.
Well
Nice.
done,
Can we see
Zach.
Yeah.
Is this it here?
No, let me share it.
No.
No, that's mine. That's mine.
Oh, yeah, no.
Nice.
Yeah, no, that looked way better than mine. Actually, I don't even know if I want to show mine now.
No, show it.
Okay.
Pam Anderson is Miss Marvel.
That's Greg Ho, by the way.
That would.
There we go.
All right, here we go. All right, here we go. Before, after. Oh yeah, that's way better, dude.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, that's.
And that only took an hour?
Nice,
Yeah,
man.
like an hour.
Good job. That looks good.
Take that.
I didn't fix what she said though. I was thinking about that.
Rewrite the script as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Wow,
Maybe
yeah.
Dan wouldn't appreciate it. That's very good. You even recolored it, didn't you? You added highlight.
Yeah, I did. I
You
read
did.
Oh, my God.
It's good.
And also, well, I just adjusted some of the levels of things to make it pops.
Cornelius hates everything. That is untrue, sir.
That is
That is
untrue.
untrue.
He loves
chili
Asian
dogs
women.
are awesome. I do
He
love
loves
Asian
chili
women.
dogs.
I do.
Yeah.
And he
Yeah.
loves tooting his own horn. A saxophone, to be specific.
Nice.
Yeah,
That
I
would
can
be
toot that
fun.
horn.
You
I
play
blow well.
saxophone? I play saxophone.
Oh, there you go.
And Dino says he's back. I didn't know he left.
Nice.
So welcome back. All right, you guys, we should start wrapping this up because we're at the 8:30, so that's 2.5 hours. Wrap it up. So without Bob, giving us the you're done sign, whatever that is. Is that this? Cut it. All right. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming in the chat, hanging out with us for the last couple hours. Pontificators is always the highlight of my week. I do enjoy hanging out with these guys and talking endlessly about comics and geek stuff and all kinds of other. What is Jason doing? He's smooching.
Trying to kiss you.
He's smooching me.
I was smooching you. Sorry, buddy.
This may be the gayest stream we've ever done, but anyway.
Oh,
try to give Art some love. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Right here. I guess I should have went like this, right? Yeah. There you go. Right.
Well, now to be fair, Art, Joe has assured me that he could gay it up far further if you prefer.
Nice.
Did he? I'm sure he could, but we'll do that next week.
Joe's off.
wait till I show up in sequins and feathers, boys.
I can't wait, Liberace. Let's do this.
Elton Joe next week. Tune in.
Oh, yes.
Elton Joe. Yeah, baby. You got to make that happen now.
Joe's got it chambered, man.
Saturday night's all right, and so is Wednesday night.
And so is
nice.
the gift on the
I have a hat that has a feather. Does that count?
Yes.
Oh yeah, bring it.
Bring it.
I'm bringing it.
I think Zach's face is saying it all. It's like, we should have ended this 5 minutes ago. Yeah. Let's go. Time
Okay.
out.
Be nice to everybody. So everybody be nice to each other and let's get the hell out of here.
All right, man. Well, thanks to everybody in the chat. Thanks to all my Pontificator brothers. We'll see you next week. And happy Turkey Day to everybody. Let's be thankful for what we got and stop griping about what we don't have. So take care, everybody. I'll see you next week.